All right. Welcome, everyone. We're excited to have you join us today for our webinar featuring Ashlyn Castenson from the King's University down in Texas, as well as the creator of Focal, Richard Jensen. Before we dive right in, I'm just going to check the attendance. There's always a spike, then things trail off, and yeah, the numbers are shooting up right now. We're seeing a lot of interest. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and dive in at this point. So, welcome everyone. My name is Paul. We're going to talk about student information systems today, and the name of this webinar is When Your Student Information System Becomes a Problem, a customer story from the King's University. A little bit of housekeeping. I have to share that this demo is being recorded. After the webinar, I will send you all an email with a link to the recording so you can share it with your colleagues. And if you have any questions, there's a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. There's a little rectangle with a question mark in there. Go ahead and pull that up, have it handy at your side. So as questions come, you can drop them in there. I'll be keeping an eye on that closely over the course of the hour and fielding those questions as they come. If we don't get to your question, I'll be sure to follow up post-webinar and get you answers to your questions. As I mentioned, my name is Paul Smith. I'm the head of marketing here at Kuali. With us today is our featured guest, Ashlyn Castenson, the registrar from the King's University, and Richard Jensen. He's the creator of Kuali Focal, and he'll be sharing a product demo. So you all get a chance to see what it looks like, and he'll talk a little bit about what makes Focal unique as it relates to other student information systems. Before we dive in, I have to share just a quick look at some of the Kuali solutions. Kuali builds administrative solutions for higher education. We have a complete suite of tools under our academic ops suite, which include a student information system, of course, curriculum catalog, syllabus. We have a scheduling tool for tutors, a lot of great tools for the registrar's office. There's financial management software. We have a very cool no-code forms and workflow solution that is dramatically accelerating digital transformation in higher ed. For your emergency managers, we've got a business continuity planner. That's what you use to create hundreds of business continuity plans for every possible scenario that might unfold on your campus. And then for your research departments, we have a whole suite of tools dedicated to research administration as well. Now, I'd like to introduce Ashlyn. Um, Ashlyn from the King's University has been a longtime customer of ours. And Ashlyn, you want to go ahead and kick things off and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, hi everyone. I'm so glad that y'all are here. My hope is that everything that we talk about today will give you hope and knowing that if things aren't going well, that there is hope. So I hope that by the end of the call that y'all feel that. So again, my name is Ashlyn. I'm the registrar at the King's University. We're a small private institution. We originally started in California as a seminary-based school, but now it was moved to Texas. And we're Christ-centered, we're accredited, and we offer undergrad, graduate, and doctoral programs now as a part of the seminary that we still have as well. And we're located in Southlake, Texas. So currently our enrollment's around 500, and we're continuously working to build and grow. And so one of the things that we knew we had to get right is our student information system. We knew we couldn't grow with the old one that we had. And it was very challenging. I started in February of 2024. We were in the old SIS system at the time, and I was really just kind of learning. I didn't really know a lot about it. But I knew just from talking with different people within the organization that it wasn't working for us. And I was new to higher education, but I could already tell just based on the information I was getting from everyone that the student information system was not working for us. And that was a big problem.
Let's talk.
Um,
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
no, that's okay.
Yeah, so I want to learn more about that because there's a lot of people that are in the situation that you faced when you started at the King's University. Can you expand a little bit more on some of the things that you were dealing with when you arrived as it relates to the SIS? What were some of the struggles that you all were facing?
Yeah, a lot of the main struggles were it wasn't user friendly. There were constantly errors that were being brought forth, whether it was in reporting, finding errors within student files, um, things just not really working the functionality was not there, very clunky, not user friendly. I'm someone that I feel like I can get into a program and figure it out pretty quickly, and this was not user friendly. So that was a lot of the main things, and just the implementation of the old SIS, trying to get it up and running, it just felt like there was constant roadblocks and battles that they were trying to face just to get it working properly.
Yeah. Yeah, bad data is one of the things that we hear a lot. It's just kind of the name of the game with a lot of student information systems, and it seems like that's a normal thing that people deal with. You all were dealing with bad data, from what I understand. How did you go about trying to manage data under the old system?
So a lot of it was spreadsheets, and I
Mm,
hate to say that because it's makes you cringe when you think about it, but we were all working off of our own spreadsheets, comparing data, pulling reports, having to manipulate the reports so that we could make them reflect accurately. And one of the things that we really leaned on was Advisor, which is a huge part of Kuali now, the degree audit. So we leaned heavily on that as well.
yeah, and unfortunately, you had that because one of the issues that a lot of people face is trying to represent their programs accurately inside their student information system. And so you had this alternative, which was working nicely for you. There was also, if I recall from our previous conversation, you had mentioned integration issues. Did the other system have any integrations in place? What were things like in that regard?
Yeah, the integrations again were very clunky with just our learning management system, our CRM, even within the degree audit as well. And it wasn't on the other system side. It was because our student information system just did not have the capabilities to communicate to those systems accurately.
Yeah. Yeah. So taken in total, it sounds like it was kind of a tough situation. And so how many people were responsible for working with the student information system?
I would say we probably had a group of that work closely and use it day in and day out, probably a group of about five.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And probably much of your time was spent just trying to manage the SIS and dealing with the SIS. I come from the K-12 world, and student information systems are pretty big and bloated there as well. And one of the things I understand about SIS in higher ed as well is that there are a lot of tools. It's a very, very big system. There's a lot of features and tools that are built into the SAS to kind of help users manage that data. And so I'm sort of getting the impression that a lot of those functions are put in place to kind of help deal with a fundamental problem of the SAS, which is bad data. Is
Yeah.
that something that you experience?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So taking more time to try and just get the data straight, pulling everything out of spreadsheets, pumping it back into the SIS. I think this is a pretty common story that a lot of folks are familiar with. Okay. So once you arrive, you kind of get the lay of the land and you establish pretty quickly things aren't great with our student information system. Did you have a plan to try and find a new solution?
I did not. I think I was trying to learn the system to understand. A lot of times you think, oh, it must be me. It must be me not understanding the system. But then when you start talking to a lot of other people who are having the same issues, you're like, okay, this is a much bigger problem, especially when you're reporting to the DOE and you're having to make sure that things are accurate. We were all having this feeling of, okay, we can continue building out this current SIS or we can make the change. So at that point, we were like, let's choose our hard because it's going to be hard work implementing an entirely new student information system whenever we just, implemented the other one. We only had the other one for about 3 years, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And so to think about implementing again was very hard for a lot of people, but we have to choose our hard. And if our hard is we can see the light and we know it'll be worth it, then we knew we had to make a change.
Yeah, SIS is one of those things. I always used to say it's like getting a new roof. You put it off as long as you can. It's hard, it's expensive, it's painful, and once it's done, it's just kind of there, you know.
Right.
But it touches almost every aspect of the university, so it's critically important, that it's working well. All right, so how did you find your way over to Focal?
Well, we were using Advisor, which is Kuali Advisor, the degree audit, and it really saved us in so many different ways. We were leaning on that really to help us with reporting and different things and working with Richard, saying, what can we do? And one day he just nonchalantly says, well, we're building a student information system. And we're like, what? For real? Why were you withholding this from us? But he felt like it was at the moment where he could share that with us. And so we became very interested when Richard shared that because we have been working with him for a while and trusted him and knew the product that he had created with Advisor. And so we were very interested to see
So
Focal.
one of the things that I've learned about Advisor is it's unique in that a lot of other degree audit systems are kind of like an SIS in that a degree audit system has to have these tools to allow for mass exceptions because the degree audit tool gets you like 50% of the way there, but it still needs a human to kind of go in and manipulate things to make it accurate.
Right.
But I think what you told me is you were finding that you didn't have to do that, that the degree audits every time were accurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the very cool thing is before it was a very manual process in previous degree audits, whereas with Advisor, you get a dashboard that shows you what percentage of completion they're at right there on the student's profile. Then when
Hmm.
you click into the audit, you get to see everything broken out. And so it was just I mean, it's like a click and you can see it.
So, without getting into Advisor too much, we have other webinars for that, but this is important for Focal because the
Yes.
idea here is getting it right to begin with, right? So making sure the rules engine under the hood is set up correctly, so that everything after that, you can ensure that the data that goes in and data comes out, the information that comes out is accurate. All right, so you had a really positive experience with Advisor. It was the one shining light in this kind of sad situation you find yourselves in, and a good relationship with the team. So Richard mentions they're working on an SIS. You guys are interested. Talk to me about those initial steps through the discovery process. As you were taking a look at Advisor, what are some of the things that you realized, that you learned, and what was the thing that kind of pushed you to take the next step and actually move forward?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, just in the initial demo that Richard and his team showed us, we were amazed by how life could be. We kind of had just thought, that this is just how it is. This is just, it just has to be this way until we build out. But we realized that it didn't have to be that way and that we could have a system that actually worked for us. Richard's comment and one of his famous quotes was, everything is customizable. And
Mm.
whenever he would say that, I would be like, that's incredible, just to be able to customize it to make it work for you. And so I think within the first time that we saw the demo, we were ready. We were ready to present it to leadership and talk to them and get it moving forward.
So I love this point because a lot of times when people hear that, oh, our system is customizable, they might think, and based on previous experience, well, I guess that means I have to build everything myself.
Right.
If you're telling me it's customizable, my translation is that I have to build my own SIS. But I think your experience was different. When you said customizable, how did that manifest? What does customization mean in terms of getting
Sure.
you set up on Focal?
Yeah, I think the biggest part was Richard and his team. They would hear us, they would listen to what our issues were. They had, already been listening to them before whenever we were using Advisor, but they really knew how to listen and then implement what we needed. And it was
Mm,
a partnership. Like we worked together. Like there were times where we were on conference calls together in a room all day long, in and out, like, oh, we're going to eat lunch to get, okay, we'll eat lunch too, and we're working through all of these things. And it was very much a partnership. But we knew that they had our best interests at heart. And we knew that they truly wanted to build something that would work for us and help us get through all these challenges that we've had.
So, customization in this sense means that Richard's team are really taking the focal tool and shaping it around your specific needs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's important because a lot of times when people move to a new SIS, that means you've got to kind of adapt your business processes and how you
Yeah.
function as an institution to work with this new system. But here the opposite was true. The system was really designed around you.
Right.
Um, well, I love that. All right, so we're getting through implementation. How long would you say it took from the moment you made the decision to going live into production?
Oh gosh, I want to say it was less than a year. I want to say it was probably more like 6 months.
Mm,
We had a tight timeline. So we knew that our contract with our old SIS was ending, and we knew we needed to get this up and running because we had registration coming up for spring. So we
mm.
implemented in the fall. And that was a big deal that we had that up and running at that time, which is very scary. It was a big risk, but we knew who we were working with and we knew we could get it done. So I want to say, and I could be wrong, but I want to say it was about 6 months.
Okay. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, for a lot of folks, we're talking like year-long timelines. Um, so when the cutover happened, talk to me about the reaction from your team. So thinking about change management, change is always hard. Learning a new system is hard. And SIS is a big system. There's a lot to learn. What was the training and learning process like?
Yeah. It was a lot easier than we thought it would be, just coming from, we had already been using Advisor. So it was very similar. It was all of the same structure. It's like when you go from your iPhone to your iPad, it's the
Yeah.
same essentially. So that's kind of how it really worked out for us. There were some things that, of course, we had to learn how to build out, the terms in there and set different dates and things. But those are things that it was simple, a lot easier than we all even thought.
If I met you at a conference and we had a conversation and I mentioned that we were migrating to a new SIS, um, how would you describe how would you describe that experience to me in terms of just usability, right? So if if somebody didn't, hadn't used Advisor before, how would you describe usability to somebody who might feel a little bit apprehensive about trying to learn a new student information system?
Sure. Yeah, I would just say that it's user friendly. So you could get in there and kind of figure out your way through just because of the logic that's behind it.
Mhm.
So Richard and his team are very good about building things out in a logic way, where if you aren't really familiar with the system, you can kind of figure it out. So I think that's what I would say.
Okay. Yeah, it's self-evident in some ways. You can
Yeah.
kind of get in and poke
Mhm.
around and figure out what you need to do. All right, so
Mhm.
earlier we talked about how a lot of SISs are big and bloated. You have to have all these extra tools kind of bolted on to kind of manage the system. And so where I'm going with this question is I'm wondering how much you're using Focal compared to your previous system. Do you find yourself having to run reports, or are you pulling data into spreadsheets? How does it feel to be using Focal in terms of workload?
Yeah, it's greatly reduced unnecessary work. So we're pulling reports knowing that the data that we're pulling from that report is accurate. If we don't have a report that's pulling what we need, we send a message to the Kuali support, and they get back with us with either questions about how can we build this report specific to what you need, asking questions, and then they'll generate the report, say, hey, go check it out. It's in your I've built it into your report system. So it's been huge. It's been a huge relief to the team because reporting before was it was a kind of a nightmare. So.
And what has the team's reaction been, maybe through the process and, once they got on their feet? Have you received feedback from your team?
Oh, yes, yes. So my coordinator, she has really enjoyed the system. She had sent me some quotes that I can just read. Just one that the student's eligibility for graduation, and I'm just reading over here, has been much easier in Kuali Advisor, just because of the degree audit system and what we talked about earlier. So being able to see if a student is eligible for graduation, you can do that at the click of a button. One other thing that she mentioned was, of course, um, or I guess my associate registrar, he talked about how Focal makes conferring degrees a breeze. Before it was such a manual process. So now just clicks, and you can have that done. Um, and also with transfer evaluations, that's really changed our life on the transfer evaluation. It was such a manual process. I remember whenever I first started and asked Isaac, he's my associate registrar, and I said, "How long does it take you to do one transcript eval?" And he told me 5 hours. And I was
Mm,
like, that's way too long. Do you remember that, Richard? And so there is free, which is within Focal. It's built into Focal that allows you to do transcript. You build it out, and once it's built out, you put in a student's transcript and it pops out what their transcript evaluation is. So it's incredible.
wow. Okay. Now every state is a little bit different. Every state has different requirements and laws and regulations, data that they need to get from the university, maybe things related to accreditation. Um, did you have to implement anything in that regard for Focal?
Um,
Were there any state requirements?
I mean, we for sure have accreditation requirements. But I mean, those were just with the different rules that we would build out. So I think it was all just part of implementation, how we kind of, and then policies, you can implement policies in there as well. So I can't think of anything specifically,
Yeah, I
but
didn't mean to put you on the spot. I thought I
yeah, no, it's
recalled
fine.
earlier you mentioned something about Texas had something really specific that they were looking for. But on the policies, talk to me about like setting up rules and policies inside Focal, because that dictates a lot of how Focal works, from what I understand.
Yes, yes. So this really is heavy for our student financial services because if a student has a balance or if a student say that we haven't gotten their transcript, it will actually have a registration hold, which is a policy or a rule that you can set up within Focal to kind of do that automation rather than you having to go through and pull reports and, okay, we got to look through and see who all owes a balance and put a registration hold. It does it automatically. And so we set those up every term. They just repeat. It's like a recurring calendar invite almost, but it's a recurring rule that you set up within Focal that those things that you don't want to have to think about every term. That's been super helpful.
Awesome. Okay, well, now here you are today. How long has it been, remind me again, since you went live with Focal?
We went live with Focal fall of 2024, so it's October 2024.
So a year and a few months now.
Mhm.
Okay, and
Yeah.
things are going okay?
Yeah, they're going great. Richard's continuing to help us build out things that we need. Um, but overall, the just the impact that it's made on my team and then the university has been huge. So it was definitely worth it making the switch.
I love to hear it. Okay. Well, let me ask you this question, and I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm not sure I prepared you for this one. But if you think about the future, if we look at the Kings maybe 2 years from now, um, do things look different? Is there anything on your roadmap for things that you are looking forward or considering rolling out in the months and years to come?
Absolutely. We've met with um, someone from Kuali to talk through the digital catalog and curriculum management. And I think that was one thing that we really love as well is that you can kind of have building blocks and add things as you go to what you need. And it's all a part of this one ecosystem. So if you get an update, it's going to update all of the different things that you have, and you're not going to have to go to all these different systems. It's one system that really gives you everything that you need. And so we are definitely looking at additional products in the future. One currently is, like I mentioned, the digital catalog curriculum management system, because that is a process that's still very manual for us. And so we want to pull that into this system that works so well so that it can continue giving us accurate information, it being helpful to the university, and it really just boosts the confidence in everyone in our institution and our students as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So completing your digital transformation. Well, Ashlyn, it's an amazing story. For everybody on the webinar, I'm working on a case study. So if you want a something you can hold on to and revisit and pass around, there'll be a PDF coming soon with her story. Let's see. This is the awkward part of the webinar where I always try to think of the questions that I haven't asked yet. Let me put you on the spot and say, like, is there any questions that I forgot to ask or anything else that you would share about your experience using Kuali Focal?
I think for us, the main thing, and I know I spoke to this a little bit, but I just want to speak to it again. When you have someone that you're working with that's outside of vendor client relationship, a lot of times those feel very vendor client, very professional, very much like, okay, you're one of our many clients that we have. And we never felt that way with Richard and his team when we were implementing Focal, whenever we would have, different things that we would need to work through. Richard and his team has really felt like an extension of the King's University, and that is not something that you find. And so I think that is something that is just a treasure. And then when you partner it with something as genius as Focal and Advisor, and all the other things that they're building, I think that's just a no-brainer for me, because you'll get a quality product, but you don't always get that quality touch. And so I think that just speaks to who Richard and his team are. They have great character. They're honest. They're going to respond to I always say Richard and his team responds to my emails before I even click send. So it's just
Nice.
amazing having that. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so, so grateful. So anytime I can tell people about Focal or Advisor or Quali, I'm definitely going to do that.
That's wonderful. All right. Thank you, Ashlyn. We may come back to you, so don't go anywhere. There may be more questions that come up. But at this point, Richard, I'm going to turn to you. Now, we've heard all about this great Focal. This is your chance to shine. So we would love to see Focal. Now, I know student information systems have a lot of components. There's a lot to it. And Focal, from what I understand, and maybe we can talk about this briefly before you dive into the demo, Richard. Focal is designed differently on this fundamental idea that you have to get the underpinnings right, right? You have to set that foundation. You have to get the rules engine set up correctly. And once those rules are set, then as the data comes in and the information comes out, there's a expectation that develops over time that everything will be accurate, that there isn't a need for extra tools to bolt on or reports or systems in the SIS that would require you to like manipulate data. So with that, let's take a look. This is Focal. Walk us through what we're seeing here.
Thank you, Paul. And Ashlyn, you got me a little bit choked up there at the end. Our motto has always been, "We exist to serve." And so Ashlyn's experience is all of our customers' experience. That really is our commitment. We do try to have a white glove partnership as opposed to these semi-adversarial vendor-client relationships. And Ashlyn and her team, all of the King's University, has just been incredibly gracious, patient with us. We were actually still continuing to build Focal in some ways at the point that they adopted it. So they've acted as a design partner with us early on as well. At this point, Focal is quite well developed, extremely mature, and we continue to develop on it. We will always develop on it. As Paul said, the, I think, core differentiator with Focal and all other SISs is that we started as a degree audit company. And so Advisor was a truly revolutionary approach to degree audits, where every other degree audit system out there is this brute force way of trying to figure out in advance every possible permutation of how courses should apply to requirements. But everyone keeps saying, I designed Focal or I designed Advisor. I'm a good systems designer, but I have an incredible team. I did not begin to do this on my own. So I've got really brilliant people working with me, and I'm grateful for that. But the long and short is our core design philosophy was, as Paul said, get the rules engine right. If you get the underlying rules engine right, and we completely reimagined how degree requirements rules should be represented, they're literally rules. You're not setting up templates of courses. You're not setting up scripts or anything like that that tell the audit engine how to apply courses. You just represent the rules much as they are in your catalog. And then at that point, there's an algorithmic AI under the hood that is genuinely an expert system. It can take any arbitrary set of student courses, look at the rules, and say in an instant, we run upwards of 30 audits a second, this is the optimal distribution of courses. Change one grade, maybe now this is the optimal distribution of courses, but it's an optimization engine of student courses against your rules. We took the same approach with the policies manager, which I'll get to in just a second. But the net effect of that all is that you end up with a system that revolves around the degree audit. So I'm talking a lot and I'm showing little, but I feel like I need to set this basic framework before what I'm about to say and show really makes sense, so you understand what I'm showing you. So the bottom line is student information systems are invariably designed to be just that. They're a repository of student information, but that's not really what they should be. They should be student process systems. They should be student-centric systems, and that's not how they're designed to be. They're designed to represent data, and then the processes kind of emerge out of the limitations of the data. We completely turned that on its head, and with wonderful design partners, we thought of Focal as a student process system. So we laboriously went through for years with our design partners, what are the processes by which you support students? We had a good handle on that from the Advisor degree audit point of view, but SIS is much more. So it ended up emerging that Focal just revolves around the degree audit. It literally does. And so that's what I want to show you here really quickly. Just take a look at the registration process, and I think you're going to immediately see it's a revolutionary approach to registration. So what you're seeing here is a dashboard-based application where all the dashboarding, the portal is completely configurable. We kind of use customizable and configurable interchangeably. We don't mean changing the core code of the system. We mean you can configure it to look, feel, act any way you want. It's an infinitely extensible system. All of the widgetry is configurable. It's customizable in the sense that we can make it do what you want it to do. You can make it do what you want it to do. You don't have to wait on us. But usually front and center in any dashboard is going to be this goal and progress widget. And the idea is that an academic goal is just what is the student trying to achieve in the system. This is infinitely configurable. A goal in our system can be literally whatever you can dream it up to be. You can have, as TKU has, en passant things in which you're doing an undergrad and a grad program simultaneously. You can do double majors with particular minors associated, whatever you can dream up. So that's a goal here. In the time we have, I'm not going to go into what if scenarios and all of that, but we're going to run an audit around this goal. So if I'm a student and I'm about to register for spring 25, this is demo data, so it's behind, but you're getting the idea. And of course, we have it open for a ridiculous amount of time. But if you're going to register into spring, for example, you would typically create an audit, and I click create audit. The audit runs instantly. And this is a real-time optimized audit. This is literally the best possible distribution of the students' existing courses against the degree requirements that is possible at this moment in time. And it shows the student everything that they need to complete. It's a nice hierarchical representation. You can click or tap anywhere within this little outline, and it will jump the student around within the audit to those various sections. And the student can see at a glance exactly what they need to achieve. So the student says, well, I need 3 more courses here. What would I do to complete those? Well, every node on the audit is clickable or tappable. So if I click or tap this, it's going to pop up with a role-centric and context-centric menu. And in this case, we're going to plan courses here. So I click plan. Now, something unique is happening right now. It's actually running an audit that is contemplating every possible thing that could advance the student's progress for this particular requirement within this particular academic session. And so unlike all other systems, our system is producing not just a course list, here are all the courses, it's producing a curated list of courses specific to TWILA. And so all things considered for TWILA's state of affairs, these are the courses that would be available for TWILA to actually advance her academic progress, specifically in arts and letters. So this list immediately shows TWILA, I could do this course, but the prereqs are not met, so I'm not going to get to do that. Now I'm logged in as provider, so I'm seeing all capabilities at once, so I can show you everything. TWILA would not have this add button because she hasn't met the prereqs. But somebody like Ashlyn in a higher level role would have this add button. So somebody in a higher level role could say, we're going to go ahead and override the prereqs unmet and add this on TWILA's behalf so that she can go ahead and register for this class, even though she hasn't met the prereqs. That's one way of doing an override. You can audit the class as opposed to actually take it for credit. It shows you the various seats that are available. This is updated in real time. All waitlisting is handled directly from this interface. And so at that point, TWILA can say, well, I've got various filtration options here. I only want to do, let's say, a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. I don't want to be in class before 11 a.m. and so forth. And it's going to zero that down into just courses that conform to those filtration options. These filters are all configurable as well. We can add and take away filters based on your various criteria. So let's say TWILA says, you know what, I like this Monday, Wednesday thing. It's an evening class. That's good for me. I'm going to add that. Well, it's running an audit. And so this new list of classes is contemplating in real time the decision that TWILA just made. So unlike other systems, you're getting an absolutely not just consistent in terms of days and times, but consistent in terms of a guarantee that every class that is being planned for and ultimately registered for actually does satisfy degree requirements and actually will advance the student's academic progress. So this fact alone is a game changer for fin aid departments that often spend, I'm told, generally about half their lives closing barn doors after the horses have already gotten out. Our goal is to keep the horses constrained with every act of planning. So students are kept between the guardrails, but they never feel the guardrails. They just are choosing courses they want to take, and they're not paying attention to the fact that the system is guaranteeing that that classwork is going to be degree applicable and financial aid eligible. That is handled up here in this left corner. Some schools do not expose this to students, others do. It's entirely up to you. And all of this text is configurable and how it acts is configurable. But what this little toggle is doing is saying, maybe I do want to register for some completely out of band pottery class that I know is not going to be degree applicable. So I'm going to toggle this off temporarily. And now every single class that is offered in the system is now available for the student to choose from. But notice that there is a note that says, if you add things to your plan and to your registration now, they may not be eligible for financial aid, or you can put whatever verbiage you want in this message to warn students that now the guardrails are off. You're going to be able to do things that are not necessarily going to be degree applicable or financial aid eligible. But if the guardrails are back on, then the audit system itself that is absolutely accurate is now guaranteeing that what the student is choosing from is actually going to be degree applicable. At any time, the student can view how their weekly schedule is shaping up here. Again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into everything about the planner and the various interfaces and configuration capabilities there are. But the core point that really differentiates us is that because that registration process is wrapped in a planning process in which students are actually planning out term by term how they are going to satisfy various degree requirements. If we go back to the audit, we're now clearly seeing that this went from needing 2 more classes to needing, from 3 more classes to 2 more classes. And it clearly shows the student exactly where this planned course is going to apply, what it is going to work towards satisfying. So if a student plans out their entire degree audit, which we encourage and we even support plan templates that we know for this program, this is an optimal way for a student to get through. We hand them this template, then they can manipulate the template any way they wish to determine, I'd rather take this class than that class and so forth. You're building out a plan that not only term by term is the schedule you want it to be, but it's guaranteed to satisfy degree requirements and where everything is degree applicable, which means that plan guarantees the student when they are going to satisfy that top level requirement. They know the date in which they are going to satisfy that. And then at that point, it is strictly a question of term by term registering for those classes. So that is done back on the home page where we have a dedicated registration widget, and it clearly shows the student in this term, you are planning to take this coursework. If you just take it, all will be well. Now, part of our planning template process means that once we have an approved plan for a given term, the system can proactively detect when a student is registering for classes not on their agreed upon plan, and we can then reach out and touch the student, advisors, whoever you specify, proactively that now their registration has diverged from their agreed upon plan. And so the system, because it's so internally aware, is trapping events like that in real time, which means during your add drop period, advisors can reach out to students and say, you're not registering for what we agreed you were going to, and you're registering for different things. Are you thinking about changing your major? Let's run a what if audit together and see if this is actually going to do what you think it's going to do. Maybe you've already done that, but this becomes an advisable moment in which we have a track. We want the system keeping the student on track, the timely graduation, the most efficient, the optimal way forward. And if they diverge from what we've all agreed upon, then the system is letting everybody know that that's the case so that we can engage with that student and figure out what the student is actually trying to achieve.
And this is the part of the webinar where I say I wish this was around when my daughter registered for ceramics the second time.
Yeah, I know a student personally. She's a friend of the family. She's at a nearby university. She comes and eats lunch with us maybe, I don't know, once a month, twice a month. We talk to her about her academic progress. She's a history major. She's a late junior as a history major. They're using another SIS, a well-known SIS, a well-known degree audit. And she has already, just as a late junior, already taken 4 classes that are not going to be degree applicable for her. And she's furious. Her dad is furious. This isn't a failing of, like good faith on the part of the university or the advising staff. Everyone's doing the best they can, but the system is giving them bad data, and the system is not an accurate degree audit, and the planning registration process isn't tightly integrated with the degree audit. None of it works right. And so with everyone doing the best they can, she still has taken 4 classes that the registrar's office says, sorry, we're not giving you an exception for those, and they just were waste. So Focal literally, as I think you're seeing, just keeps that from happening. Like, students just plan to take what they'd like to take to satisfy degree requirements, and the very act of doing that is perpetually running audits to verify, yes, this applies here, this applies here. Oh, you got double dipping credit there, that now satisfies 2 requirements. All of that is just done automatically and instantly for you in the act of creating plans. So then a student just registers for their plan. Well, a new type of audit is about to happen. When I click register, this is running what we call a policy audit. Now, Ashlyn referred to academic policies, and our policy manager gives us incredible granularity at conjoining any way you want your academic, your tuition, and your fees policies. These are often tightly related, and yet in the vast majority of SISs, these are kept very siloed. And so it becomes very difficult to create complex academic policies, which is why these systems devolve into making manual holds. And they become very much Rube Goldberg machines of the heroic human operator constantly manipulating the state of affairs on the student's behalf. We handle all of that with policies, and I'll show you that next. But the long and short of what it all means is that at the moment this little pre-flight page shows up, we have done a complete policy check. We've done yet another prereq co-req check. We've detected everything that could impinge upon this registration event. So we're registering for a single class here, and this little checkbox is one that typically doesn't appear for students, but is really useful for example, registrar's offices registering on a student's behalf, saying, I'm not going, like a slate of classes here, I'm not going to include this one in this particular registration event. So the student is able to clearly see exactly what the total of tuition and fees for this registration event across all the available classes in that registration event are going to tally up to. So the student knows when I confirm and register, that's what it's going to be for me. That's what's going to appear on my student ledger. But notice that a student would be blocked right at this moment. This confirm and register button for a student would be grayed out. Now, again, a registrar's office or an advisor, if schools allow that, could actually confirm and register on the student's behalf, overriding these policies. But the student would be blocked because they haven't done part of the admissions checklist. And as a result of that, they're blocked from registering. Now, this admissions checklist is completely configurable. You can make this be whatever you want. We have an amazing workflows engine under the hood that is managing all this. You can configure it to trap for anything you can dream up. In this case, the student hasn't satisfied 2 of the admission portions of the checklist and would be blocked for registering. This would be in red typically for the student, so it really calls it out. Same thing with prereqs, co-reqs. If there's missing prereqs, it denotes what it is. The student could click on the missing prereq and be right back in the planner to immediately plan to take that class. It's a very seamless interface. But I'm going to just confirm and register, and notice it says, you are overriding policies. This event will be logged. And we log anyway all events, but this one gets a special note. We have a special table devoted to policy override events. And so this can be called out specifically. Do you want to proceed? Yes, I'm mighty and powerful and I'm going to do it. And so this now confirms the registration. And notice that immediately a new widget appears on the dynamic dashboard, which is the student has now an owed balance. If this were hooked up to a payment processing system, and we support them all, then there would be a make payment button right here, and the student would be able to immediately make a payment using the payment processing system, and that would immediately come back and update the student ledger. This widget would go away. This student now would no longer have that balance. In this case, we see immediately on the student ledger that this Art 133 class has appeared with the total of charges. And students like being able to see the total of charges but occasionally they like being able to expand this and see the totality of the individual charges that went into making up that total. And so this enables them to expand or contract and see exactly what they were charged to take that class, down to the penny. We're seeing here a 92-cent tuition instructional equipment fee that was charged. And obviously this was a proportion of tuition policy. At that point, all kinds of management of that class become available. These buttons appear based on role and the time, the term, time boundaries that are specified for add drop periods and so forth. And so during the add drop period, a student can just unregister, get all their money back. After the add drop period, they could withdraw. They can apply for late withdrawal. That'll make that button appear when it otherwise wouldn't, and on and on and on. I'm blathering now to say a lot of things other than it's just ridiculously configurable. You can make things happen the way you want them to right on this one widget. There is complete control. Another bit of functionality that is really huge is that for any individual class, you have a little drop down, and this is by permission, reapply policies. You can also do that term by term or across the entire ledger, where you could say for this entire spring term, we're going to reapply policies. That becomes important if somebody was configuring policies and made an error of some kind or neglected to put in a policy that they had meant to put in, but they didn't put it in. And so now students are being mischarged. Well, what you can do is you really want to go through, pull a spreadsheet, see all the affected students, touch each one of them individually, go in and manually add transactions to fix that. No, that's ridiculous. So you fix the policy in the policy manager, and then you simply reapply policies. And the system automatically touches every affected student and notifies them of the touch and the effect that it had on them. And they can immediately see the transactions appear in their student ledger as well. So every difficult process that you typically deal with in student information systems, at a very deep level of granularity, we've worked with our design partners to figure out how to streamline those processes, how to make everything that you do in touching assist just work smoothly. So most things are completely automated. We do support holds. They become very rare. Those are just individual one touches that you make on a student for a particular kind of edge case. The vast majority of things are handled by policies. So we're running out of time. I'm going to touch on policies just super quickly. Down here in utilities, we have our policies and sections manager. This is where you literally configure the totality of the system. All of your course templates, all of your basic course offerings are denoted here. Sections are always instances of course templates. And so all of your base configuration of what a course even is done right here. And then at that point, every single thing that you do in the way of peeling off a section is peeling off that core configuration, and then you can manipulate that on a section by section basis. But the policies are designed to be a hierarchical relationship. And so we have typically academic years. Then within those, you have what we call reporting terms, because these are nothing but clumping up academic sessions into what you report to the federal government, what you report to the state, and so on. And then down within reporting terms, you can have an unlimited number of different academic sessions that you offer. And within a session, you're able to specify all these different dates of when your last unregister is and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Then all the sections that you offer in that particular academic session are listed here as well. And each one of those ultimately is contemplating all of your institutional policies, all of your year policies, all of your term policies, all of your session policies, and any individual section policies you have, so that all of it ends up trickling down into a totality of everything the system is contemplating for every student who will register for this particular class. And so that one that you saw, placement not complete, is a policy that prevents registration because the student has not met with a navigator. Now, you might say, for this particular section, we're not going to trap for that. We're just going to uncheck, we're going to save, done. No longer is this policy going to be contemplated for students who register for this particular section. So my overarching point is that Paul talks about a rules engine. Our policy manager is a super complex, really sophisticated rules engine under the hood. That means that the vast majority of what you presently do manually, we just work together to configure it here. And once it's configured, it just works. And so then, and I think Ashlyn will attest to that, it just works. You're not involved in this endless tuning of dials and pulling of levers like you do in most SISs. And what that means is student registration events are immediate, seamless. Their fees and tuition are right. Everyone knows what page they're on. So these student processes, it's a student process system, becomes streamlined and easy, and students love it. Now, one final thing I want to call out is if we open this up, not only do all these policies happen, but we have registration in which you can set up specific registration events. Every single section you peel off gets a unique URL with a unique code, and that code is referenced in this QR code. So if you're ever offering community ed classes or that kind of thing, or limited registration classes, you can specify a registration password. You can reference a QR code. We serve schools that literally publish in the newspaper. We're offering this particular pottery class. Check this out. Scan the QR code right on a user's phone. They scan that QR code right from the paper, and 2 or 3 taps on their phone later, they're registered into that pottery class. So schools that depend heavily upon community education, one of our community colleges, I think 60% of their FTE is community ed. They make bank now on the fact that registration is such grease skids straight into their community ed classes. So endless amounts I could show. We're basically out of time, but it's a extremely well-designed system from the ground up.
It's not just you saying that. And, as the marketer in me appreciates the QR code, I always love a good QR code. I love that story. Ashlyn, I want to get your reaction. I saw you nodding a few times as Richard was sharing. Did you have any favorite features as he was going through his demo there? You're like, yeah, we love that.
Yeah, well, I mentioned the policy thing, so that's been huge. We really love that feature and are continuing to add to that. I mean, the degree audit and having it right there on your dashboard, the ability to add widgets and kind of customize, for the students, having that payment just being right there. I think it's just, we have everything right there, and then the student on their side, they have everything right there in one spot. And I think that just makes it so much easier. Students feel more confident knowing that they know where to go to find what they need. And so do we on our side as well.
I love that. Especially for new students, there's so much uncertainty and anxiety around what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to complete this journey? So having that, it's almost like a contract in place where you can rest assured that this is your plan. And if you stick with it, you're going to graduate on time. Richard, I have one final question. Ashlyn at the Kings is, we're talking about 500 students, but Focal, as I understand it, is robust enough and has enough features and capability to support the largest institutions. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so the underlying infrastructure, I'm not going to go into the details, but we can scale to any size school. We serve schools that have upwards of 30,000 active students in a given term. And so both the degree audit and the surrounding SIS, depending on whether you buy Advisor or you buy Focal, the underlying infrastructure supports unlimited scalability. And we never charge extra to scale you up. If we find, for example, that, oh, your audits are taking a second to run, that's unacceptable. We add a couple of workers. We don't, write an invoice and say, we added 2 workers to get you back up to speed, therefore it's this amount of money.
Yeah.
We just scale you. Your system's always instantly fast.
Yeah. Higher ed really needs that pricing predictability. Budgets are
Yep,
set so far in advance. We don't need any surprises.
exactly.
Okay. So in wrapping up, just right at the top of the hour, what I wanted to share is let's see. We didn't have any questions come up. I'm double checking, which means you did an excellent job covering all the bases team. Well done. Very good. But I just wanted to plug this upcoming webinar we have sponsoring the Chronicle of Higher Education. There's an all-star cast here who will be our panelists. Richard will be a featured presenter as sponsor, and we'll have an opportunity to lend his knowledge and experience in the realm of degree audit. He really is one of the foremost experts on the topic of degree audit, and we'll be talking about how that relates to this idea of proactive advising. So if you have your phone handy, be sure to scan that QR code and check it out. We're really looking forward to that one as well. And with that, I will thank the both of you. Ashlyn, thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time. And Richard, this is your second demo today, second webinar. So I really appreciate you towing the line for the company over here and helping marketing out. And to everyone who joined us, thank you so much. You'll be getting an email from me with a link to the recording, and please share it with your colleagues. And with that, we will end. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.